Welcome to the Hustlewing podcast. Today we are joined by Brian Mccan, who is the CEO of Intergalactic. Hi there, Brian. How are you doing?
Hi, happy to be here. I'm doing really well, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. For folks at home who might not know a lot about Intergalactic, could you maybe give us a little bit of that origin story?
Yeah, I absolutely can. So the company was founded in 2016 as Airborne ECS. And at the time, it was a bunch of engineers that just said, hey, we're not addressing the core thermal problems in aerospace. A lot of the technology it's derived from like plate fin heat exchangers and just really old technology. And they were like, hey, this is 100 years old now. And we're still putting it into aircraft. And there's better technology out there, but they couldn't get their companies to fund it. And so they decided to quit their jobs and formed a company on Skype. And I got involved in 2018. And since then, we've just been really doing some fun stuff that I'm excited to talk about today. But just taking the whole thermal management problem in aviation, space, defense, and looking at it differently than any other company out there. We have some patents and some ways of doing things that are different, that gain more efficiency. So that's really kind of the founding story.
Nice. I want to get into the nuts and bolts and just sort of figure out because you mentioned heat management systems and I'm interested in how that looks like. So, what are some of your products and how are they applied?
Yeah, so we actually started out in defense, and that's the area I can't talk as much about. I can talk a little bit about it, but in defense, you have aging aircraft, right? So you have F-15s, F-16s, aircraft like that's just from a different generation. Some of it now is 30, 40 years old. And now you have newer aircraft coming out like the Joint Strike Fighter. And those aircraft they're supercomputers. So they're constantly updating them. They're adding more technology. They don't need to engage as much in the air. There's a lot of stuff that is really beneficial about the newer fifth gen aircraft and going into sixth gen aircraft. And so these older aircraft, the military wants to upgrade them because they don't want to just throw them away. They're very expensive. And so they've come up with these podded programs where you can produce a pod that bolts onto the bottom of a fighter jet, say, and it gives it an enhanced capability. But there's a lot of technology in a very small space, which produces a ton of heat. And there wasn't really a way to deal with that heat in some of those applications. And that's really how we got into defense, which has been a lot of fun, but it's very high performance. It's looking at higher voltage systems and not to get too technical, but just stuff that just wasn't out there. We were able to take, for example, a heat exchanger and come up with a newer, more novel design that reduced it to about a quarter the size of what's out there right now. And that in aerospace matters a lot because every pound you put in the air, over time costs more money in fuel and over the fleet, it's hundreds of millions of dollars. And so we found ways to get lots of weight out to the tune of, in some of our systems, we do these fully integrated systems that have compressors and pumps and all this stuff. But you're taking systems that are 250 pounds and cutting them down to 110 pounds. That's game changing. That's something the aerospace industry is always searching for and never finds, that much weight savings. So that's
Hmm.
really where we've made our name, and now we're just starting to scale, and it's going pretty fast.
Hmm. Quite interesting also just how you guys have been able to sort of also reimagine the space and even the offering and the tools that can be used in the space. That's quite interesting. I mean, of course, you've mentioned quite a lot of technicalities and variables that are involved in the process behind the scenes. And I'm sure there are different challenges that you guys come across and probably also work on different projects. What kind of unique challenges do you guys, come across or are tackling at the moment? I ask because we do have a network of contract workers, side hustlers that might come in handy, with some of those challenges, depending on the skills that they have. Walk us through that, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, for example, right now, and the aerospace industry does a really bad job of promoting itself. I don't know how that happened, but the general public, this isn't like the Apollo 11 days where everybody's hyped about a mission. I mean, I hope we get back to that. But there's some really cool stuff happening right now, including air taxis are coming to market. So this isn't an idea. There's companies that are already funded. A few of those companies are Eve, Archer, Joby. I mean, there's about 300 companies altogether that have been founded in the last several years to address this market. The FAA has come up with a new type certification that they're working through. to get these things to market. So by 2024, late 2024, early 2025, in the skies over cities like Los Angeles, New York, Miami, you're going to start seeing air taxis shuttling people. And what's so profound about that is these are electric aircraft. They're like drones, and existing aerospace or aircraft technologies won't work one for one across the board. So you can't take something that goes on a regional jet necessarily and plug it into a fully electric eVTOL air taxi. And so it's totally new architecture. It's high voltage. It requires a different way of thinking. And so we actually started on this quite a while ago and came up with our own way to address battery thermal management in eVTOL. And that got the attention of a lot, I mean, basically the whole industry, because no one else had done that. And so now, for example, we've won a platform called Eve, which has about 3,500 pre-orders, and we're the sole source provider on that platform to produce the thermal management system. So that is the number one, at least by in terms of pre-orders and backing, eVTOL company out there. So we have right now, in the next couple of years, we'll be working on a totally new type of system that's high voltage, that has some novel technology built in. And we're absolutely hiring like crazy and looking for talent wherever we can find it, the best talent we can find.
Hmm.
So that's
So I
that's one
mean,
problem.
yeah, go on.
Yeah. No. I can stop there. I can pause there and see if you have any questions. I don't want to talk too much and I get really excited about this stuff. So I could just spin up for like an hour and keep going. So I don't want to do that to you.
No worries. No, I was just going to ask, for you to maybe expand on that, because does that entail the kind of challenges or needs? Would that entail sort of engineers, developers? What does that look like? If you could maybe
Yeah.
break down those kind of opportunities. I mean, of course, you spoke to branding and marketing. That's one, but I think
Mhm.
maybe the technical component of it, specifically what it is there that you sort of need.
Sure. I'm happy to address that. In fact, I mean, we're an engineering first company, and I think we're innovative. Invention is one of our core values. We lean on a lot. So at our heart, we are engineers. We love engineering, deep tech, new frontiers. Most of our engineering openings right now are going to be in mechanical, electrical, manufacturing, and software engineering disciplines. And then we also have need for, specific types of analysts, like, CFD analysts. There's different types of packages that we need to use to make sure that we, go down the right roads and things like that. And so there are opportunities there for us to look not just at engineers but other technical disciplines as well. And we need technicians. It's kind of up and down. I mean, we need senior engineers that have worked all the way up on full system applications in the thermal world for aerospace specifically, all the way down to entry level technicians that can come in and help us turn wrenches. So it's kind of across the gambit. But we kind of view ourselves as like a technical haven. This industry has really bad culture, and we are completely going against that and having a blast doing it. And so we have a really tight knit group, and it's a lot of fun. So if anybody's out there is interested in any one of those types of professions, I think those are our most acute needs right now.
Yeah, yeah. And in terms of projects, I mean, it sounds very exciting. And I mean, I was looking at the website earlier on, and just looking at that, for me, I can see this sort of like this very dynamic and innovative approach to the aerospace. Are there any new projects that we should be looking out for?
Yeah, we're going back to the moon. I mean, most of America doesn't know that, right? So, Artemis, which is the sister of Apollo in Greek mythology, that's the name of the new mission. It's called the Artemis mission, and it's going to be the first mission that the first time we go back to the moon will be the first time a woman and a person of color have stepped on the moon, and that is from our country, and that is just absolutely phenomenal. So we're very excited about that, worldwide, to make that kind of and for the U.S. to be the ones that lead the pack in going back and putting human boots back on the moon. So in that process, though, it's not like it was in the 1960s where it was kind of like we're landing these janky rovers on the moon and we're just happy to be there and we're hopping around and taking pictures and grabbing rocks. We actually want to establish a permanent base on the moon, and we want to establish a space station to orbit the moon. And that's a very strategic location for getting to Mars, for example, because you can slingshot around the moon. You can mine helium 3 on the moon as fuel. and get to Mars much quicker than if you're trying to blast out of from Earth and then you've got to refuel and do all these things to get to Mars. So it's an interesting prospect. But one of the cool things is, I was in a meeting with NASA earlier this year, and really they were focused on we've got to go the dark side of the moon. The dark side of the moon has never been explored. It's very harsh. There's no sunlight there, so it's about negative 300 degrees F, which are cryo temperatures. And what that means is mechanical equipment has a really hard time working there. And so humans can't go there unless they have a vehicle that can take them there. And so we're working on new moon rovers that are fully encapsulated that can go to the equator on the light side of the moon, which is about 250 degrees F, all the way to the dark side of the moon, which is negative 300 degrees F. And they can explore that terrain in areas we've never been to. So we're going to learn a lot about the moon and how it's made up, and how it was created and all sorts of different things. But most importantly, I think it's important for people to know that we'll be there for good. So
Mm.
it'll be a permanent base.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. And I suppose this is where, those different opportunities that you mentioned earlier on would be coming in. So definitely, I think our network will definitely be plugging in there. If they want to get in touch with you guys, where can they go? Websites, social media platforms?
Yeah, so we're active on LinkedIn. I would say we're probably the most active aerospace company on LinkedIn as far as engaging our followers. So I definitely follow us at Intergalactic on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me there, or Brad Plotho, who's our Chief Growth Officer. You can also email me at brianm@ig.space, or go to our website at ig.space, and you can check us out. And there's comms links and ways to get a hold of us there too as well.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Brian, for your time. This has been quite insightful.
Absolutely. Thank you. I always love talking about it. So thank you for the opportunity.
Pleasure.